The ratio or the types of omega fatty acids that you're consuming directly affects whether or not inflammation is promoted or quenched in your body. So here's a picture of all the different things that there's research on showing what the omega fatty acids do. So multiple body systems, the immune system, every cell that has mitochondria, your eyes, your brain, your circulatory system, your skin, it's all affected. So there's lots and lots of research demonstrating this. Here's an example of a study just to show that the ratio of omega-6 to omega-3s is very important and affects the level of inflammation. So what scientists know or project to know when we're looking back in history is that the ratio of omega-6 to omega-3 was 1 to 1 in ancestral populations. So just to give you an overview, omega-6s are found in all the plant-based foods. So you think of grains, you think of corn, soy, nuts, seeds. Most of those are dominated by omega-6. Omega-3, basically the only source that's strongest for omega-3s is fish and seafood. Yes, you can get some omega-3s from flaxseed, but it's difficult to convert that to the DHA, the omega-3 that we really need. Most people don't convert enough for it to be useful. So that ratio in ancestral populations was 1 to 1. So people were eating like equal parts foods high in omega-3s to foods in omega-6s. Whereas today, in the average Western diet, people are eating 15 times more omega-6s to omega-3s. And this has huge outcomes for the level of inflammation that people are experiencing. Some other anecdotal signs of too much omega-6 would be hives, and also chronic pain or inflammation that's alleviated by NSAIDs. So things like Tylenol or ibuprofen or Aleve work through the omega-6 pathway. So if you're needing these things chronically, this should be a big red flag that you've got to work on your omega-6 to omega-3 ratio, trying to bring it down. You want to bring down the omega-6s and increase the omega-3s to reduce inflammation. Just to give you an example of some of the studies, I think it's fascinating. Getting the ratio down to 4 to 1 was associated with a 70% decrease in total mortality for people with heart disease, cardiovascular disease. Getting the ratio down to 2.5 to 1 helped people with colon cancer. With breast cancer, the lower the ratio, the lower the risk. Getting the ratio down to 2 or 3 to 1 suppressed inflammation in people with rheumatoid arthritis. And getting it down to 5 to 1 had a beneficial effect on people who experience asthma. So all of these are examples of chronic inflammation and how when you increase someone's omega-3s and decrease their omega-6s, they get markedly better. You can test your level. This is a test that I provide through my business, Human Nature. So if you want to order it, you can reach out to me. It's just a home finger prick test. And then you send it off to the lab and they tell you what your ratio is. So you would know, how much do I need to work on this? Basically, if you don't want to test or you'd like to be proactive and do something right away, I would say you should eat fish or seafood every day, or on days you don't eat fish or seafood, take an omega-3 supplement that has 1,200 milligrams of DHA. And then in the meantime, you want to get off of the foods that have a lot of omega-6s. So I have a picture of the chips here because chips and snack foods like crackers, anything processed in a box or a can that's a processed food is going to have a lot of added omega-6 oils. Anything with canola oil, corn oil, soy oil, avocado oil, yeah, any of the vegetable oils are very high omega-6. So you want to cut those out of the diet and primarily use olive oil or perhaps an extra virgin coconut oil or different things like butter or duck fat, etc. Those would be lower in omega-6. Okay, so the bottom line for this section, we're going to move on to the next tip, but before we do, I hope you got the message that omega-3s basically stop the inflammatory chemicals that are initiated by the immune system in a situation with inflammation. And the research that's been done on it shows that the more omega-3s you take, the more it reduces inflammation. So really the sky's the limit on omega-3 rich food, which is basically seafood and fish. And the only thing that's a cost is really the cost of the supplements or the fish and the seafood.